Welcome to the Living Well podcast, hosted by Terry Megley, CEO of City Union Mission. In each episode, we bring you inspiring stories of transformation and insights from those who've overcome life's challenges. Join us on this journey of resilience and discovery. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Living Well podcast. And we have a great story of triumph for you today about a single mom and the opportunities and challenges she went through to experience triumph and to see her faith overcome those obstacles in life. And so we're excited to have Amber Mora here with us today. Welcome, Amber. It's so good to see you.
Same. Thank you.
Well, we're excited. Our listeners and those that want to hear, let's just dive in because you have an incredible story about how God brought you to City Mission, transformed your life, and then continues to transform as you continue your journey after the mission. Well, let's just start with some little bit of background. You became homeless, but what was that journey that led you into homelessness? Let's start there.
So I'm going to start with like family, like in my, or with my, oh my goodness, just my family life growing up. It was I had a single mother growing up until I was about 11, and that it was just chaotic. But I mean, she was a young mom of 3, a single mom. So it was just very chaotic, and it was, she tried her best and she did what she could, but in any home, when there's not 2 parents, it's just never gonna like be what it's supposed to be. Like, it's not going to be focused on God, or, I mean, it can be, but, so growing up, it was just very chaotic. And then my mom met my stepdad at around 11, and instead of 3 of us, there became 8 of us. So that was it was a big shock. And it was fun growing up, but like I said, just it added to the chaos. And then, like, my family, they always would use substances like drinking or smoking, and that was their coping mechanisms. So it's like whenever they'd have a good day, they'd go and drink to celebrate, or whenever they'd have a bad day, they'd drink to celebrate. So that was just something that I learned to do to cope with my daily life. So yeah, it was just very chaotic. And as I grew up in that, I became an adult that had no coping skills. And it was very, it was rough because, like, I chose these friends that I could hang out with that would accept my family life. So I can't say it was the group of friends that I had that made me the way I was. It was like my family life then helped me to choose the friend groups. So
yeah, and and that usually works that way, that our friends kind of normalize our growing up and the chaos, and so you gravitated towards what you knew, what you felt comfortable with. And so it just makes sense that you gravitated towards friends that were engaging in substance abuse and other items of drug abuse and things like that.
Yeah.
At what point did you move out of the house?
Man, I was 17. I had got a dancing job, and I was still in high school. But my parents, it was a weird situation to where like the house was getting bulldozed down, a house that we was renting out. So we had to move, and I ended up finding a friend that knew a friend that helped me get a job dancing, so then I could make enough money to support myself and live on my own, which I thought was so great. And my mom helped me pick out my outfit for the interview, and it was just, now thinking back, it's just super chaotic and like just really sad, because I'm pretty sure she had been drinking. And yeah, so 17, I was still in high school. I ended up getting a place on my own. Yeah.
And it probably brought some relief and maybe some help to know that you were out of that chaotic situation, but you went from one to another. And I would imagine at 17, you probably didn't think, I want to grow up and be a dancer. You probably had other dreams.
Yeah. So, well, at 17, this was the world flashing at me. Like, I thought being in that, like living in the world and being in that atmosphere was like, oh, wow, this is a way I can get like famous, or this is a great way to make money. And like on the outside looking in now, it's like that's what had led to me being super prideful and full of myself, and just it got me deeper into an atmosphere full of more drugs and drinking, when I had done like a lesser amount of drugs before I had started dancing. And yeah, living on my own, I thought it was great. There was a sense of accomplishment, but it was very like easily just taken away. Like,
and it sounds like if we went back to that moment when you were 17 and we just peeled back that opportunity for freedom, that really your heart was probably aching for things that you didn't get at home. And I think the dancing part probably filled something in you that was missing. Can you speak to that, how you look back at that going, my real need was this, but I sought it out through other means and it was artificial?
Yeah. So like my real need was to have a loving support system, a loving family to just walk along beside me and hold my hand and tell me like, hey, this is like, life is going to do this, but this is how you're actually supposed to respond to it. Like, that's what I needed. I needed a Christ-like person to be there for me and steer me in the right direction, instead of allowing me to run off into my own devices, which was ultimately just, yeah, it was not a good thing.
So at some point, you probably came to a realization that lifestyle is not going to fulfill you.
Yeah.
It's superficially, it gets attention and all that, but I think deep down in, as you're kind of processing it, is you needed that. You wanted to feel worthy. You wanted to feel accepted. You want to feel belonging, and somebody could help support you be successful at something.
Yeah.
And to thrive at something. And so that piece, I think, is you're taking us through this journey, is at some point now kind of catch us up to a significant transition in your life, a beautiful young girl that's now in your life. Tell us about that piece.
Yeah. So, man, later on in life, I got pregnant at 19, and I had my baby girl, Ellie, at 20. Which was amazing. It was a good, almost like I thought a changing point in my life, because like I thought it was, but the reason why I wanted to get pregnant is because I thought that this would make her dad stay with me and love me. And that's like, it's it's sad to think like, oh, well, I have to do this in order for somebody to do this. And it's very, what is it? Quid pro quo or something like that.
Yes.
So, yeah, but she's amazing, and man, she's grown up to be such a great young woman. But I had Ellie, and then later on, I ended up splitting up with her dad, and that caused me to go further off into the deep end. But also, so not only was I was still dancing at this time, but I had Ellie, and my friend would watch her during the day or during the night while I worked, and then I had her during the day, which was good for a while. And then after me and her dad split up, deepened, and then it's like I started doing more drugs, harder drugs, to just cope with the things that I was doing when I was dancing. And it was very, very just lonely and empty, when you would think that like you're getting full of all this money and all these like possessions and materialistic things, and like you're trying to fill this void, and it would only lead to more emptiness inside. It made me feel more like, so I'm trying to live my life, and I'm so young, trying to be a mom, and I'm just doing these things, but I'm doing it backwards. So it's almost like a generational thing, to where I was doing the things that my mom had done. And that's why now I can realize, okay, my mom, even though she wasn't the best, like I still love her and respect her, because it's like, well, I kind of had done the same thing that she had did. But yeah, after after working, and doing the drugs, it just was like a snowball effect. And the snowball only got bigger, to where my addiction was unmanageable, to where I was in and out of rehabs, and I couldn't even keep a job of dancing, because I was so addicted to drugs. And I had Ellie with me in and out of like just my sleeping in a car, or living in a trap house, or at my parents' house in the basement, which only lasted a certain amount of times. And Ellie had been taken away from me, but praise God, he had a different plan. And I feel like she's one of the reasons why I got sober. I couldn't keep doing the things that I was doing, knowing that I have a child that's living in a place where I know there's drug activity going on, when I was in jail. So I had been in and out of jail so many different times in this period of having Ellie. And it's just, it's sad to think of the things that she's been through. But now, like, I can't wait to see her life later on, because it's like, if I can overcome the lifestyle that my mom put me through, it's just going to see like a story of triumph in her life as well, because how God is just so overwhelmingly amazing. And he can, like Romans 8:28, and he works all things together for good to them that love him, who are the called according to his purpose. So, like, God can take these horrible situations and just switch them and use them to glorify himself, which is, it's amazing. And yeah, so after having her, I still went downhill. You'd think, and you would hope that would be the moment in my life where like things switch up. But it took a little bit longer. I was still very prideful after having her, and my siblings were drug addicts, and I would judge them and make fun of them because I wasn't as bad of a drug addict as they were. I was not that bad. But God had a way of just knocking me down and humbling me because I became the same type of drug addict they were. So it's now, because I had judged the other people, I can see I was humbled. I had a choice. I didn't have to go deeper into being a drug addict, but I chose that path. And in that, it's okay, well, now I know that how addiction really affects people, and how hard it is to get out of that, but knowing that, hey, there is a way to get out. And it's good because, I know not to judge people or tell God certain things, because usually if you tell God, oh no, I don't want to do that, it's I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and look at me now.
Yeah. Well, and you've talked about denial, and I think it's important that we understand that addictions can hijack the brain, and it can change the way you think and feel, and so you were slipping into this deep, dark pit of probably depression and not knowing where life was going. Somehow, you made it into City Union Mission at the Women and Family Center. Tell us about that journey of you getting to City Union Mission.
So, funny story. Actually, when I was pregnant with Ellie, my mom and my stepdad, with the younger siblings, I think there was three of them, Lainey, Wes, Gabe. Yeah, so there was only 3 that was living with them at the City Union Mission, and I had went and visited her, and it was for Christmas, and we got to come over to the New Life Center, and I was so just angry that they were so happy, and it was so whenever they graduated the program, I went to the graduation, and I was like, well, why are you, what's so great about this? You're graduating from homelessness. Why is that good? I didn't understand, oh, wait. So and at that moment, whenever I had went to the mission, I was still very lost and very prideful. So later on, I had been in and out of jail, like I said, and the last spout of jail time was about 6 months, and I was not wanting to do the same thing. And in jail, these people actually came in, and there was a Celebrate Recovery group, and I had been saved in jail. And I finally was okay, this is not working for me, living on the streets and in my car. And I have a 4.5-year-old, and I can't do this anymore. So I got out, and my mom came and got me from jail. And she let me know where she had lived, because previously I was too deep into the drug addict life to where they didn't even want me to know where they lived. Which is very understandable, because I'd bring random riffraff people there, but so I had went there, and they're like, all right, you could get your stuff. We're going to the City Union Mission. So we went to the City Union Mission, and so I finally was in a place of submission to God, especially in jail, because I'm okay, this is it. I don't want, because in jail you could still use drugs and do that. It's reachable there. But I finally was no. I actually got picked up from a rehab by a bounty hunter. But praise God I did, because I was thinking about leaving the rehab to go and use. I had been 3 days sober, but that's when I was okay, well, now I gotta go use again. But God had a different plan. And the bounty hunter came, and I went to jail, and God sat me down, and I finally was okay, God, I'll try you for a change. I can't do this anymore. So I was at like the end of myself, but that's perfect because God's strength is perfect in our weakness.
It is. And, you know, I love how you described visiting your mom and stepdad at City Union Mission, who was going through a recovery program. So you came in, you felt extremely jealous of their happiness
Yeah.
because you wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
But it took a while before you were really ready
Yeah.
for that opportunity. And now you're back in City Union Mission where you visited your parents and you're in the shelter. And you're beginning to say, hey, what are the opportunities here? And you start to attend some classes and get on the short-term program called New Beginnings at the time. And describe the moment you started to connect with the content of the classes and maybe recovery. Talk to us a little bit about what started to engage your heart.
So honestly, what really sticks out to me whenever I went into the mission was getting onto the New Beginners Covenant. I'm pretty sure it was NBC. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that you had to do, or one of the first things, I forget now, but the thing that stuck out to me and what made me so proud was getting that negative drug test. Like, I did it. I'm clean and sober. Like, I look at this, I was so proud, and like, just like, that was something that I couldn't have achieved since the age of 13, getting a clean drug test. So it's like, I mean, I had been, but anyways, so I couldn't accomplish it, and I did this thing, and I was sober, and I was so happy. So it's like, once I knew that I could be sober, it's like, I can do any of this. Like, I have God on my side. Like, this is it. But the other classes that really stuck out to me was when Debbie, oh my gosh, I forget what class it was, but she was amazing, and she would talk about just what addiction's like and what it is like being in survival mode, and how it's a big Mack truck. Just when people get sober, a big Mack truck of all of their emotions just come and crashing in on them. And it's like, whenever people don't have that foundation or that support, they usually just, that truck just bulldozes them down, and then they go back into what they know because it's easy. But with the City Union Mission, it's like, we had that support group. We had you guys. We had Miss Debbie and Miss Martha and Miss Betty and Miss Me Soon and you. And it was just very eye-opening. And it's like, these random strangers, like, I don't even know these people. They care enough to, like, teach us, like, what we're doing wrong in life, and show us, like, the love of God. And it's like this, it was just, yeah, mind-boggling.
It is. And, you know, I do remember you on program, and I do remember you first coming into the shelter and being in classes, and I do remember you jumping for joy. I think I heard some screaming out in the hallway, and I had to come out of my office to go find out what was happening. And you were so happy celebrating the clean drop. And but you know, you're describing something that was missing in your life with a chaotic family, not getting direction, not getting the support. And now you're describing that as you're in CU Mission program, you're describing relationships that came alongside you and said, we love you, we care about you, and your life means something to you. Yeah. And that sounds like God had a way to fill that gap, to go, Amber, it's time for us to reparent you.
Yeah. It's so good. So good to know, like, how the reparenting takes place too. because there were so many different classes, like things I hadn't learned that I wish I would have learned, and things that my parents didn't know either. Like, they taught me what they knew. So, like, boundaries class, like, that's a big thing that a lot of people don't understand, and there's just a disconnect there. Because a lot, like, and even still today, there's certain things and moments in my life where it's like, all right, there's a boundary that's been crossed, and I need to, like, make sure that that boundary stays firm, because we got, yeah. So there's just, like, indivisible, or invisible, not indivisible, that's a math term. Or no, that's, anyways, invisible lines that you need to follow, that you set for yourself. And then it's like a parenting class that I so needed, because I was treating Ellie as my best friend, not like I was her parent. So that one was very eye-opening to me. And then, smoking cessation with Miss Martha. That one, it's funny the amount of money that I had spent on cigarettes. Like, it's just insane. But
you probably could have bought a brand new car or a new house. You know, Martha does a great job of helping bring reality and break denial. About is this habit worth doing? You know, and you know what's interesting is as you're describing the journey of parenting, it's common that parents like yourself feel guilty that their child had gone through all this, and it's kind of that normal process where parents have to break that cycle of being the best friend, viewing their child as best friend, and now beginning to parent. And so that was probably new for you.
Oh, yeah, it was so new. And I remember Miss Christie would be like, no, she's your child. She's not your best friend. You can't treat her like your best friend. You're only hurting her in the long run. Like, if you don't discipline her in a way that is glorifying to God, she's just going to be a mean little minion running around, a me monster. So it's like, okay, now I know that I need to set bedtimes. I need to set up wake times. Like, I need to give her responsibilities, to give her her own autonomy. And it's just like very structured is a great word. And obviously living on the streets, like, I had no structure. So how am I then going to teach that to my child? But being in the mission had opened these doors to where it's like, oh, well, you're living a structured life. So now you can teach your daughter to live a structured life. So it's just like a generational thing. And I knew that, okay, when I get sober and I go to the mission, it's going to be good. But I didn't realize, like, oh no, this living this godly life is going to lead to giving Ellie more opportunities than I had. So it's a generational thing, and it's really great.
It is. And, you know, once you completed the 9 months, you were up for graduation. How did that feel that you completed the program? It's all that hard work, the counseling, the classes, the homework. Can you remember how you felt that you at graduation?
Man, I felt so accomplished. And going through the program had, like, getting saved, God gave me a purpose in my life, which was amazing. But then it's like, okay, you're saved now. What's next? And luckily for me, I had the City Union Mission and the program, and it was super easy. Like the New Beginners Covenant, boom, that's next. The New Life program, boom, that's next. And then it's like, okay, the next step is graduation. And that was so gratifying. And it's like, okay, I got sober. Okay, good. check that off the list. I quit smoking, check that off the list. Now I graduated a recovery program, which I thought was never, it was out of my reach for so long. So finally realizing and seeing that, hey, you can live this life that you've always dreamed of. You can live a life that a normal person lives. You can live like these strange people that you would see at churches and stuff like that. Like, you can live this normal life. It is like, you can do this. So graduating was amazing. And then it's like, okay, then I gotta go get a job. And this would be like, I feel like I had other jobs when I was younger, but this was a job that I would have being completely sober. And I remember praying about it after graduation. It was amazing. Ellie even got sorry, I'm jumping topics back to graduation, but Ellie even got a graduation certificate because it's not only me that was going through the program, but she did too. So just having gone through this program and completed it and graduated, like having my daughter there with me, it's amazing. And it was like, okay, wow, I did this. We did this together. And just the people there that were all there, and the graduation ceremony was so big, and it felt like graduating high school, but better, because I wasn't present when I graduated high school because I wasn't sober-minded, you know? Like, I just know the feeling of accomplishing something, but now in this sense, I remember going and walking and getting my diploma and taking the picture. Like, I can remember it like it was yesterday, whereas there was a fuzzy feeling with the high school graduation, but I don't really remember it.
Right.
So this is, it's better because I had my daughter with me when we did it.
That's right. That's right. What would you say if you were sitting across somebody that was in your situation, left home and pursued a lifestyle that continued to take them down a dark and deep pit? What encouraging words could you say to a single mom that you can encourage them? What would you say?
Man, I would tell them, like, hey, it might seem bright and shiny, but if you're not guarding your heart in the right way, Satan, the enemy, is just going to creep up and destroy all that you're working for. Like, first and foremost, make sure they're saved. Like, ask the question, like, if they know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And if they don't, then I would share the gospel, let them know that Jesus Christ died for you and rose on the third day, but he died for the atonement of your sin. And all you have to do is accept Christ into your heart and make him Lord over your life. And then just know that Jesus is the only way to heaven, and then they're saved. But also let them know, like, hey, if you don't know what I'm talking about or who Christ is, like, the next step for you would be going and getting help at the City Union Mission, because that's where my life got changed. And if you're trying to do something to break this cycle of craziness, like, just go to the City Union Mission, show up at their doorstep. They'll most likely take you in. And just let them just love on you the way that you need it.
That's great. And that's excellent advice from Amber. And you have heard from her the challenges and the triumphs that she's been through. And her chapter is not over. And we're looking forward to another episode of hearing more about that next chapter after graduation. And likewise, too, God is working in your life for another chapter coming, and you can live a life of faith like Amber did, just trusting Him and working with the people that God brings in your life. So thank you, Amber. Look forward to talking with you again.
Thanks for tuning in to The Living Well. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media for even more inspiration. Want to join our mission? Visit cityunionmission.org. Stay inspired, and we'll catch you next time.